All right, we're live. Day 2 of VAR and Espresso. I got my espresso here. Got free 50 points from Acme. Thank you, Acme. Leo, I know you. Um, that game was on at 2 in the morning where
Yeah,
you are. It was on at 8 o'clock where I was, and it was a snore fest. It probably would have, if you stayed up for it, it probably would have put you to sleep. But
I have to be honest. I just watched the first half, but a lot of highlights when I woke up this morning and read a lot of papers. But the first thing that comes to my mind is that Ustari made stole the show for Inter Miami in this game, uh, and it shows that Al Ahly, that a team that nobody knows, or outside Africa, or big football fans, they can play at the highest level in world football.
yeah, here's the thing. I mean, I think we're gonna keep seeing some of these games. Obviously, that was the first match,
Yeah,
and you're gonna see a lot of these teams that you're not used to seeing. If you watch the original Club World Cup, where it was just the team from that won that level, Ali won a match a couple years ago. They won the CAF Champions League in 23 and 24. They won a match at the Club World Cup, and in the semifinals, it was a tough match. So if you're used to watching those, you'll see a few of these teams, but the level of play. I mean, Inter Miami from they got a point out of it, so good for them. But from the opening kickoff, I mean, it was just all Al Ali. Like, it was just all Al Ali. The one-way traffic. People are killing Messi this morning. They're like, listen, bro, it's time to go at the high level. Like, you're not there anymore. Look, it's one game. I think we got to relax a little bit with
yeah.
that, especially with this group because it's so open. And the second match of this group is today.
Yeah,
In New Jersey.
Palmeiras versus
Yeah,
Porto.
Porto Palmeiras will be playing in New
Yeah.
Jersey in front of a huge Portuguese Brazilian crowd. That'll get some big numbers today, I think. But my main takeaways after watching these games is I still, I go back to yesterday and someone saying, oh, the South American team's going to win it. They're in the middle of the season. I just don't see anyone other than City, Madrid,
Yeah, me
PSG,
neither.
Bayern. One of those four teams, maybe a Chelsea has a chance. Just because they have a talented roster. I just don't see any other team, winning this tournament. But it was good. They had, I don't know if I tuned in early and I don't even know, man. I'm a huge music person. I'm old though, so like we'll see these people that were performing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, what is this? What is this club show? I know it's in Miami. I'm like, oh, this is like a Miami club concert or something like this. So and you get you got to pay for the ticket, so they got to give you some entertainment and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and the atmosphere was very good, pretty good. I
there's a lot of Al
saw,
Ali fans there.
yeah. They show the world how big is support in Africa, and I think that's a good thing for African football to showcase it to the world.
I look, you and I here are probably like the outliers. Obviously, we're huge football fans, and I personally, even though I live in America, I saw why Dad when they won the Champions League. I watched the match a couple years ago, and I watch Copa Libertadores finals, and I watch, I don't watch the Asian finals a lot because it's at different times, but I watch. I get up in the morning sometimes, and I watch some Australian soccer, the A League, because you can't call football because Australian rules football.
Yeah.
The MLS, I'll watch if it's on. Obviously, Jim Williams, who will be on here every once in a while. His brother runs the MLS package for Apple TV, so I'll watch a little bit of that, and I'll go to some matches. So I mean, I know some of these teams, and I know, I watch enough to see this, but for a lot of people in America, and it's on TBS, so it's on the same channel here that they broadcast the NCAA basketball tournament, which is a big deal, March Madness and stuff. So it's on, it's not on, it's not on a paid thing. It's not on a service. It's not on a stream. So you got to go search for it. It's on actual, if you have cable, you can find these games. So I think this is going to be something for people here, where it's going to be a huge thing a year out before the World Cup. So an introduction. I think it's actually going to be a pretty big deal, and I think it's going to raise the level of play here, because everyone here is going to start to see this and start to say, all right, this is where we need to be, as a country, and these are what these fans come in, and this is what we have to do. So it was good.
Yeah.
But the game was, the second half was not, I was in and out. I was like kind of.
It was more balanced, in my opinion. The second half, Miami had a lot of chances, and I saw the comments on Messi's display tonight or yesterday for me, but I don't think he's the main problem, and I can't think he's the main problem of a team. When I saw the first half, the Inter Miami's defense,
they're
was
not
the real problem.
Yeah, they're playing. First of all, they spoke about this in the commentary. They had some, they're 21-year-old. They're new to the lineup. I think one of them they just brought in. They have some injuries. Once again, here's the other thing. I mean, here's the counterbalance to the point where people are saying, yes, these teams are in the middle of the season. It's going to be better for them. Well, yes, but if these teams are in the middle of the season, some players are out injured, and some players are, missing right now, or they're working their way back from injuries, or they have a little bit of like the bumps and bruises and stuff like this, and maybe they're not going to be risked. So for a team that's obviously not going to win the tournament, so you're going to get some stuff like that where you're getting a little bit weaker lineups. I don't think you're going to get that as much with what PSG might rotate, Chelsea might rotate, but those guys, the players they're going to put in when they rotate are going to be better level players than some of these players that are here. So I think, that was the main thing. Their defense was struggling. Their back four was struggling. And the first, I mean, every ball Al-Ali had they're, throwing some balls over the top, and then some other, they're going down the channels, and they had the penalty, and they couldn't take advantage of it. But like you said, the keeper from Miami, I mean, he had the game of his life.
Ustari had a big game,
Yeah. So, it was a good way to kick it off. I mean, today, there's not going to be, I don't think you're going to get a 0-0 in the Bayern Auckland City match.
No.
At noon. PSG's playing Atletico Madrid at 3, Palmeiras Porto at 6, and Botafogo in Seattle at 10. So today is the first day. It's always when you're watching the World Cup, the weekends are pretty cool because, during the week, obviously you're going to get, tomorrow there's 3, 6, and 9, 12, 12, 3, 6, and 9. A lot of times you're going to get the 4 match windows, and this is the first one today. And there's probably, Bayern Auckland City is probably going to be ugly, but the other 3 matches are going to be really, really interesting, I think.
Yeah, and to add something about Auckland City, uh, their team is incomplete because a lot of the players couldn't go to the US for amounts because it's a competition that will long amounts, and some had to stay in New Zealand to work as their work. So they are the biggest amateur team in the country, in the I maybe in the world, I think, because they are the only amateur club present in the Club World Cup. So they had to stay home to work like everyone. So I just want to see who they bring with them in the US and how a team like Bayern Munich, with the season incoming, the preparation and everything, is going to deal with it, because I think Vincent Kompany will gives chances to his young talent and new recruits.
It's interesting because I was looking up Auckland City this morning. They finished third in the 2014 Club World Cup. They've been, they went a couple times. But imagine if you're a player for Auckland City, or you say you play. I don't know. I play for my local team. Richborough FC, and man, it's the greatest accomplishment. We're playing in the Club World Cup. Yeah, bro. Yeah. Sorry, you can't go. I need you to cover the second shift on the register at McDonald's. Sorry, bro. We can't give you the time off. Like, I'd be like, what? What do you mean you can't give me the time off, bro? I'm on TV and playing in the Club World Cup. Nah, bro. We need you to manage this. Like, who's gonna manage the second shift? Like, I can't. It's so amazing that these players weren't allowed to go. I feel you feel bad for them. I mean, I know you have to work and stuff, but it's a chance of a lifetime here. And it's not like the old Club World Cup. If you're one of these smaller teams, you're playing in those early games. If you remember the teams like Real Madrid, the South American team and the European teams would basically get a bye to the semifinals, and they basically, you're in the final. So, these other teams are playing these early games, and if you win or you lose, but you might lose your first game. You're there, one game, you're out. Here you're here in the US for, a week and a half, longer, because you're here training 2 weeks, and you're playing 3 matches, against a pretty, you're playing, Bayern. You're playing.
Yeah, you will play against one of the best team in the world.
Bayern, Benfica, and Boca Juniors. You're playing 3 matches, and you can't get out of it. Sorry, man, can't get you out of work this week.
And the 3 opponents are 3 of the greatest teams in football history. They are champions, European Cups winners with Bayern and Benfica, even if it was a long time ago for Benfica. You have Boca Juniors and their fans. You will play against some of the best players in the world. I think about, obviously, Manuel Neuer, Thomas Müller, Michael Olise, Edinson Cavani, Angel Di Maria. I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime. If you can't, I don't know what the players who stayed in New Zealand think at the moment when they will see their teammates play against these stars and these big teams.
Yeah, I'd be really, really upset. I mean.
But we can understand.
Yeah, look. Yeah. I mean, I'll give you a little. It's not the same, but last we have for my, my job, I work for, LB Capital, and we had our big conference last year in Florida, December, roofing conference. Everyone comes. You're all this huge Marco Island, this great luxury hotel, and they're like, yeah, we're having our Christmas party on Friday. I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Yeah, we're gonna be, we're going to this thing. Oh yeah, listen, hey, you have to take the I for the next, you'll see, I'll be doing the show from my boss's house for the next 6 weeks, either here or at the shore. And he's like, yeah, listen, you got to take the kids home. Oh, they got to go to wrestling practice. I'm like, so I can't go to the party. They're like, yeah, nah, this is more important. I'm like, all right. So like, I come home and whatever. I'm home early. I'm home 2 days earlier, which is always good when you're traveling. And like, I see all these pictures and I'm like, damn, man, look, they're having fun. But then I was home, so it was like, whatever, it's counterbalanced. But I mean, when you see, it's a shame, this is a great point. You're a player, you're a player. You want to be on the field. You want to be on the pitch.
Yeah.
You want to be home at work. So it's interesting. Bayern's going to win the game 5-0, whatever they want to do. But, I think that's it. That's just an interesting story. And that's the first game. The second and third games of the day, and the fourth, because it's, Botafogo in Seattle. See where that game is. Oh, that they're playing that in Seattle. So Seattle's
playing. I think Seattle will play every of his games at home.
Yeah, that's right. They are.
And it's the only of the 3 US teams that will play in his home. For
most of the games are in the East because we talked about it. But listen, and that's I don't know how much MLS you watch, but that stadium, Seattle, and this goes for the NFL. The NFL, the Seahawks games,
it's the Lumen Field. Lumen Field, yeah.
They're outdoors, and the stadium, like it records earthquakes. For the NFL games, the MLS games are like this too. But they actually the seismographs will record earthquakes during the games because it's so loud and the stadium's jumping, like it's so loud. And this isn't indoors, like when you're watching like the basketball or the Stanley Cup or whatever. When you're indoors, you hear it's loud because the roof's on.
Yeah,
it's so loud. It's Kansas City where they play the games. I think there's some games in Kansas City. It's so loud. So it's a great stadium for football and, for this. So that'll be interesting. And that's the 10 o'clock game against Botafogo. I think that game will be good. Look, PSG and Atletico Madrid, I don't know if you're going to get a better match in the whole tournament in the opening rounds than that.
No, I don't think. I think it's the biggest games of the group stage.
Yeah. I mean, just looking through, I mean, this is the only match. Benfica's playing Bayern on the 24th. I mean, I think that's probably the only other one. Juventus and Manchester City, but not the same. This is true. Look, you got the Champions League winner against
the third in La Liga.
Yeah. Who who've been to Champions League finals and stuff like this in the last 10 years. That's a massive game. It's in the Rose Bowl. So that'll be interesting because it'll be probably warm there. PSG, Atletico, Palmeiras, Porto, Botafogo, Seattle. I mean, what are your thoughts? PSG, you're right there. I mean, you're about what, 10 miles from the stadium?
What 10 miles is in kilometers?
10
yeah, I think 30
kilometers. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked a lot about PSG. I'll give you a quick. I went to, when I first came to Europe for matches in 2011. I went to my first match was Manchester United against Chelsea. I went to the Europa League final in Dublin. which was Porto and Braga. But I went to Paris and I went to a PSG match. I saw them win. This is back in 2011 when this project was just starting.
Okay, yeah.
And
when CWC just bought PSG.
Yes, yeah. So
Okay.
the project is just starting. They were just getting good. I believe they won the title that year, or I think they did.
In 2011, yeah, they lost it in 2012 to Montpellier. Yeah, I think 2011 they won it.
It was it was just different when I got off the train, and it was
yeah, the Parc des Princes is a wonderful stadium. I think if we talk about architecture, if we talk about sound, but now the Qatar direction wants to leave because they want a 60,000 seat stadium, which I can understand.
How, for people that don't understand, Paris FC just came up finally. It's one of the richest teams in the world. How the stadiums are about this far apart, right?
They are 33 meters away, the one from another. But
they gotta have a match. I know they can't because of the logistics have a match at the same time, but I mean that when those two play, that's going to be amazing too. I mean, we'll do a whole show about that. I mean, because I know just when I went, they had the PSG fan groups were separated. The supporters were separated because there's a whole Paris is a whole, we could talk about Paris for forever. But PSG, they finally win the title. They finally win the Champions League. And, once again, it was, they were this close to not even qualifying. And then they beat Brest 10-0. They beat Liverpool. They beat Aston Villa. And Aston Villa, Liverpool had them on the ropes. Aston Villa had them on the ropes. Arsenal never really had them on the ropes. No. And then they get to the final and they just win. This is a huge tournament for PSG because all of a sudden, look, they're the youngest team in Europe. You can consolidate. If they go on and win this, and then we talked a little bit about this yesterday, and then win the Super Cup, and then win the league, you can consolidate here. And you got players now. You're a young team. Everyone wants to go there. Everyone wants to play for this project. And you could see this team becoming, Real Madrid from last century, from last decade, where they win 3 Champions League titles, 4 Champions League titles in 6 or 7 years at this point. I mean, do you think they take this tournament seriously, or do you think they rotate some players? Do you think they get rest to go for next year? How do you think they're going to go about this?
I think PSG will be like all of us big European teams. The Club World Cup is a kind of pre-season tour for them. But as we talked about yesterday, they want to win because now it's the culture of the club and the culture Luis Enrique wants to give to his team. He has a lot of very, very good and young players. We talked about Bradley Barcola. We talked about Desiré Doué, but Seny Mayulu, for example, is a very good young player. And even if we talk about João Neves, Vitinha, who else? We can even Ousmane Dembélé is a young player. Not young, but he's not old. He's not in his 30s. And I think I like to say that PSG is a team to be because now the project is for 3, 4, 5 years. They have a lot of young, talented players. And the fact that they have just won the Champions League, as you said, players want to come to PSG because they know they can win. I think when you win the Champions League, you go further. Now we will talk about PSG. It's not like we talk about Arsenal who never won a Champions League, or Atletico de Madrid. You know what I want to say? Now PSG can be compared to they can be compared to Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Barcelona. They are a big team which has won a big title.
How are they? Look, I know you're not a PSG fan, because I know who your team is. You support Lyon, correct?
We never won the Champions League too.
It's interesting because Lyon was so dominant, but right before PSG took over, and made semifinals and stuff like this in the Champions League. But and PSG is only the second French team to win, and the other one was Marseille. And there's a lot of if you go back, if you want an interesting read, go back and read all the stuff that was around the Champions League in Marseille at that time, because there's a lot of stuff. It's really, really interesting read. But how's PSG looked at in France? Because I know they're very young, but I mean, look, they spend a lot of money on these players. They spend a lot of money on salaries on these players. They spend, it's I think sometimes people say, "Oh, it's a fairy tale," but they've spent a lot of money. Compared, probably as much as the rest of the teams in the whole league. Is there like, I when in England, a lot of times people are like, "Oh no, we're rooting for." Some people are like, "Oh no, yeah, we want Arsenal." No, like I don't want any English team to win other than mine. So like, is it the same thing there? Like, are the French people happy that they won, or are they just like, nah, this is?
I think when we talk about PSG, we have to talk about two separate things. Their investments on the transfer market. In fact, they spent a lot of money when they bought Neymar, when they bought Kylian Mbappe, when they bring Messi to Paris because of his salary, because he was on a free transfer. But the thing that has changed this season is that Luis Enrique gave a real identity to the team. He made them play like he wanted to. And even if you don't support PSG, you have to say they are the best team. They are the best players. It's okay to spend money, but you are a Manchester United fan. You know that money isn't always the answer to everything.
That's
so
right.
They bought young talents. They bought Bradley Barcola from Lyon for, I think, 40 million euros. They bought Désiré Doué from Stade Rennais for 40 million. They bought Visha Kvaratskhelia from Napoli for 70 million. So they spent money. But after that, Luis Enrique achieved to make the player play like he wanted to play. And I think this is the best way to make people like your team. If you propose something attractive, something beautiful to the eye, you will have fans. Or even if it's not fans, you will have some people who can recognize your work.
I think the thing with, once again, with PSG and City, the thing that they do, and City does this pretty well. I mean, you saw how much money they just spent.
Yeah.
When they make a mistake with someone, they figure it out, they rectify it quickly. They say, look, this didn't work, we're going to buy somebody else. A lot of teams can't do that. PSG's done a pretty good job of plugging these players in, and now it works. I mean, and now they're set for a long time. Palmeiras Porto is at 6. Once again, that's going to be a big crowd in New Jersey because there's a huge
and a big game.
Big,
because
yeah, it's a big game for the group. I mean, Group A, obviously, winner of this probably wins the group. There's a huge Portuguese and Brazilian population in North Jersey. There's going to be a lot of fans at this game. Massive, massive game. Once again, I think these teams are probably pretty close to even. And once again, Palmeiras is in the middle of their season, so that this is where they could get an edge, I think.
And just because you were talking about Manchester City, I think the difference between Manchester City and Manchester United is that Manchester City know where they want to go. When you look at the transfer target for Manchester United, you don't understand what they want to do. They recruited Højlund, they want Mbemo now. They recruited Zirkzee. What is the idea of that? Even with the coaches, they took Amorim, they took Ten Hag, they didn't let Van Nistelrooy work. What is the idea? What do they want?
I think now with this new project, they clearly have a project, and they clearly have a direction for once. I think before they would spend money and they didn't know. I mean, look, Ten Hag just bought his own players from his own agency. That's pretty clear. That SEG, there's a lot of those players that Højlund was from that agency, whatever. So either Ajax or from the SEG. So they probably should have got rid of Ten Hag after the FA Cup win. They didn't. They went with them. They brought, Amorim wanted to wait until the end of the season. First of all, because Sporting was good, and second of all, he said, "Look, I don't want to come in the middle of the season. It's a disaster right now." The good thing, I think, he said this, but then they're like, "Listen, either come now or you're not coming." And he said, "All right, I'll come." The good thing about him coming in that season is now he could see, like, Asmus Højlund is, he's got to go. Inter wants him. He's got to go. He's not good enough. These guys aren't. This person isn't good enough. This is what we need. This position. We need a right back. We need another center back. This guy's always injured. The butcher. Martinez is good. He's always injured. I think he likes him. But you got to see, like, if he keeps getting injured, obviously you need somebody else there. They have Lenny Euro, they have Aiden Heaven, they have guys, they have young players. I think they're going to do what PSG did and build a younger core. They need someone that can score. If they had anybody up top last year, they could have scored any goals. I think they finish. They're still not good enough, but they finished somewhere because there wasn't much between where they were and 6th or 7th. So they probably finished closer to, Europe. So they definitely need that. But they have a lot of young players coming through. I mean, that's clear. So I think they're going to give this guy some time here now. He's definitely building stuff. But yeah, it's just, it's a scatter shot. I mean, when you see all these other clubs and what they're doing, looks, Liverpool just won the title and they bring in Wirtz. They spent a lot of money on him. And those big money signings usually don't work. So we'll see, we'll see how he does. But I don't think they're as far off if they get some of these players they're trying to get. Obviously Cunha is in, looks like Mbeumo.
Yeah, Matheus Cunha.
But yeah, it's just, it's frustrating because you're seeing all these teams playing these tournaments like this, and you're like, man, we should be in this tournament. We should be here.
Of course.
And but yeah, I think we'll be closer. I think we'll be back close, sooner than a lot of people think. But we'll see.
Okay, so now if we have to bet on the 3 games of the day, what do you think? For Bayern Auckland City?
I think Bayern wins.
Yeah,
5.
Me too.
5-0.
Yeah, and PSG Atletico.
I'd like to see the lineup first, but I think probably PSG wins at 2-1, something like that.
Okay. I would bet for a draw.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, they're clearly the two best teams in the group, so a draw wouldn't hurt.
And notice that Ousmane Dembele shouldn't play tonight. Or yeah, he was injured during the last France.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
In the third place match. Yeah, that's right. So maybe. I mean, they're deep, but we'll see. I mean, I'd like to see who they play, but I think PSG is a little bit better than PSG is obviously better than Madrid.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a tough match.
Yeah.
I'll shade it to PSG.
And I think the first surprise of the competition will come with Palmeiras beating Porto.
I think that's a pretty good shot. I think it's going to be probably 1-0 Palmeiras. I think Palmeiras, they're tough. I think you could get I don't even know if that'd be an upset, but I think you're probably right there. And then Palmeiras takes control of that. Look, Palmeiras and Porto are probably both going to go through. Unless Al Ahly can beat Porto, but
yeah.
And then,
but when you look at the players, the Palmeiras players, they've got a lot of good names. I will talk about, for example, Vitor Roque, who played at Barça then Real Betis. He didn't succeed there, but we can see that he has something. Estevao, Ricardo Rios, for example, which are good prospects. So they can make the first surprise of the tournament.
Yeah, I think they probably. I think that's probably a pretty even match. And I think people will think, oh, Porto, because they're a big club, but look, I think that's probably pretty even. And then the night game, Botafogo and Seattle, which is tomorrow where you are.
Yeah. It's at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, but I will not wake up to watch it.
Yeah, it's pretty late for me. But look, Alex Telles. I mean, same thing. They have some players. Any of these teams, any of the Brazilian teams, I think are going to be, they're going to be tough. They're going to play. They have some talent. They have some players that have played, and at the higher levels. Seattle.
I used to love Ryan Kent when he was at Rangers. He was I always thought it was a good winger for the Scottish Premiership, and he's now plays at Sounders, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Him. I mean, Jesus Ferreira, Jordan Morris. I mean, some people. Stephen Fry's the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
They have a
Obed
decent
Vargas.
Alex Roldan. They have some players that I think of all the the American teams, like obviously Inter's Miami has got Messi and Suarez, but
it's kind of different.
Older at this point. I think Seattle, especially at home, is going to have a chance in this match. I would say maybe it's close to a draw, or but I think that's really a toss-up game. So
yeah, I think Botafogo will win this one because from what I saw from them, they are good players. Talking about Igor Jesus, Jair Cunha, the central defender, Savarino, the midfielder. They have and they are Copa Libertadores winners and Brazil champions in 2024.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it should be an interesting. Yeah. Other than the first match, I think you're going to have 3 probably high level matches or pretty even. So
yeah.
And tomorrow we have 3 games starting at 3:00 here local. The first game in Philadelphia is tomorrow night. Flamengo and Tunis. there's going to be about 12 people at that match, but I may actually go down to that because it's just late. It's at 9:00 at night, but I think I could probably just go up and get a ticket, no issue, and sit wherever I want. So that could be interesting. Maybe I'll just go down and watch that, but we'll see.
Yeah, okay. And tomorrow, I think we will have Daniel with us.
Okay.
I think he said that on Mondays he's going.
Daniel will be able to do some things. So we'll have a new voice here. He brings some stuff from England, and he'll be able to kind of go through some of this. So and we'll see, and we'll have maybe a little more bants, as they call it, bants. That's your Sunday here at the Club World Cup, and we'll see how it goes today. But I expect to see some good games and a lot to talk about tomorrow. So
yeah, so tomorrow let's meet at 1 p.m. for me and 7 a.m. for you.
7 a.m. American Eastern Time, 4:00 in the morning on the West Coast. Good luck if you're doing that. And in Europe, around lunchtime.
Yeah.
Or whatever you call it. In
1 p.m. CEST and 12 p.m. BST.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Good show.
So, Sean, I wish you a good Sunday of football, and let's talk about the 4 games of the day tomorrow.
Okay. We will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
Remember, subscribe, hit the bell, all that stuff. YouTube, Sports Talk, Insta. Go follow us on all the stuff screaming at the bottom. We need your follows, and we need your comments. Leave comments and everything, and we'll get back to you.
Yeah.
All right. Have
a
great
good day.